seems quite a long way away. I've never travelled so far, and I took some soundings from people in Northern Ireland before I left. And one lovely woman in her 80s actually did her teacher training here in New Zealand, and she said she really loved it and considered not going home because she fell in love with somebody in New Zealand. But I said, how did you get there? And she said, oh, I went by boat. Oh, that wouldn't take a long time. She said it took 5 weeks. So it just puts in context us arriving and sort of dropped in, and I'm acclimatising, but maybe the 5-week journey would have been a very good one. Some interesting things about language going on. This is right with sunglasses. We assume that we all speak English, so we understand each other, but there are some vowel changes. So if you're struggling with understanding me, it's probably because I'm doing the same to you. I've actually got some nephews and nieces who are American, and others that are English. And we had all the cousins in the room just for one party, and it was amazing how you could trace the Irish influence on the American accent. And it's a very interesting combination of people. Excuse me on this. So, I thought I'd actually put myself in context in terms of what's going on in Northern Ireland and working in Northern Ireland. Do I press this towards you?
Yep.
No? Oh, there you go.
Yep, wait.
Oh. Right, one back. Okay. So, it was great to see the world the other way up. That's a really refreshing view. This is the way up we have it. That's United Kingdom, is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So Northern Ireland is the bit on the left in dark green. There's actually, I'm quite worried about what's going to happen in the referendum that's coming up in June. Because there's quite a wave of people in England particularly who want to pull out of Europe, the European Union. And that's going to affect us in a lot of ways, so watch the news, watch out for it. But in terms of our work, sorry. Try water. Coffee. In terms of the legislation, we are very much under the umbrella of UK legislation, and EU directives influence the construction industry. Some of those have been very positive about product directives. There's a lot of opposition to regulations, but actually some of those have been really good driving force of things that the UK wouldn't have got round to, including lowering the VOCs and people cleaning up their act in terms of industrial processes. So on balance, I would say it's very positive for all of those regulations coming in. And we've got now the new United Nations carbon targets, everybody's counting carbon. You're part of that too. I'm concerned that's going to be just a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of greenwash, basically, rather than the real thing. Meanwhile, there are those of us who are doing stuff ahead of the need to because of regulations, because we're motivated to. So here's Ireland, and apparently it was assumed I would have an Irish accent and I'd be very Irish. Sorry to let you down, folks. I'm as English as they come. And the blowing, actually, I don't know if you've heard that expression, but blowing is lovely, romantic thing of somebody who's like tumbleweeds just arrived. So I'm in Northern Ireland, which is the northern part, and it was partitioned in the 1920s. I was given, 4 minutes to do a monologue on the history of Ireland and the car coming down. I don't think I've got time. Very complicated and still relevant to understand a bit of what that's all about. Locally, we're called, there's actually t-shirts in Northern Ireland you can buy as tourists now, because it's spoken as though it's Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland. Maybe you're glad the whole lecture isn't in Northern Irish, because you might not understand it. So I did say to my hosts, oh, it's been snowing in Northern Ireland. But I said it in a slightly soft voice. No, it kind of snowed. Oh yeah, I've got a text. It snowed in Northern Ireland. And of course they were hearing North Ireland. North, not the So out of plenty of misunderstandings are a lot of humour. And so there we are, so close to our fellow country, the South, the Republic of Ireland, and yet they joined the euro and we're still on sterling. We're generally metric in terms of dimensions, but our currency obviously is different. We're generally metric, but we're still in miles and they're in kilometres. So if you hire a car in the south and cross the border, take care. But we do drive at the same side of the road. That would be. So this is the building that we renovated when we first arrived in 1991. And we did it very slowly. We were quite short of money. And it's romantically known still as Phase 1 and Phase 2. The name stuck. And basically the house has grown to fit our needs, and my office is now in the house as well. But it's worked very well for us. It's very flexible. Basically, we started off with a stone shell and nothing more. So I do a variety of projects, and what I'm noting here is I'm known for sustainable construction, but that attracts some interest, definitely, some clients, but I think even puts off other clients. So it's not mainstream, and you can have a unique selling point that's a unique unselling point in such a way. We've been devastated by the recession, and that's particularly hit the construction industry, which has bottomed out. And this graph from UK and Scotland suggests that it bounced back up in 2010, but we didn't. I think this must be a reflection of large government jobs or the Olympic Games, because we're going to take 10 years to rebuild where we were, at least, actually, because 2008 is quite a long time ago. Just in terms of women in architecture in the UK, in the 10-year period between 2004 and 2014, we have risen from 15 to 24% of architects being women. That's still, I think, quite low, and half of the students in the schools of architecture are women, but something's happening between that process and them staying in practice. I think maybe they're in practice and then drop out. Because the new admissions this year, 42% were women, so slowly, there'll be some change. And the second from right is the flag of Ulster, in case you want to be able to identify that. That's the red hand of Ulster. I understand you're trying to ditch the Union Jack complication in yours. These are some of the publications we've done. It started with the Green Building Handbook, which some very brave people published, including Tom, my husband. Brave because we always expected to be taken to court by some of the manufacturers whose products we were slamming. I've had more of an editorial role since. The middle book, Hemp Construction, sample outside, but I haven't brought copies to sell, but you can get hold of that. And that's basically a compilation of the research we were doing leading up to about 2006. And it was great because it was a mixed team of the land technology who was selling the product, some scientists, some other architects, and so it was a good compilation of all of that. I was just flicking through it and I spotted a typo, so don't do my job as an editor very well. So natural building then is a broad overview of different building materials, a bit more than a coffee table book, but very good for clients to see the breadth of that, of what choices there are. And the low impact building on the right is a critical review of some projects that were done partly funded by the government, where they specifically had to have natural building materials in them and other technologies. So there's come. Now, this is how we were promoting Northern Ireland. Then we had the ISBC, which, you know, the imagery of the woman on the top of the cliff with the hearts, it's just going to be a hit, that one. So, not sure what the author's doing. Oh wait, I have shoes just like that, but I'm looking forward to meeting the body, because I don't know whose body it was. Yeah, yes, sorry. So there is a calendar, which you're going to sell at the end?
No, we're selling them out the front, and I suggest that you could get autographed copies of the calendar.
So one of the reasons I live in Northern Ireland is that I really love this landscape, with sea lochs and lots of coast and beautiful mountains, where it hasn't been spoiled by bungalow blight, that is. And then there's the other image of Ulster, which very interestingly is actually attracting tourists now. People are quite fascinated by this history. When one of the chief executives of the tourist board said that it was before the end of the Troubles, and we should promote this as a tourist industry, he was sacked, and it was really shocking. Actually, he was lucky to be sacked, not shot. But now it's safe enough that we dare talk about it much more publicly. So there's a turning point. But the history there is there still, live history. So there's a lot of tourism about this, and you can get a black taxi tour by one or other sections of the community. You don't know until we've done a bit of a tour, we're gauging which side we are. But there are these incredibly powerful, progressive murals on both sides of the community. So one of the things in Northern Ireland, when you first meet somebody, is that they actually try and work out whether you're Catholic or Protestant. And it's extraordinary how it'll take 7 generations for that not to happen. That's so in the psyche. You can't credit people when you hear people's stories, and then they're still making their life's work to make peace in Northern Ireland. It's quite remarkable. So the small contribution that I've made is to be part of building an integrated school, which I think the word integrated means something different in New Zealand. But this is educating, and this one was primary school, educating Catholics, Protestants and non-religious pupils together. And I think actually it was to do with Catholic and Protestant, and it's important always for me to emphasise and non and other, because the duality is part of the problem, that they only saw it in their own terms. I'm not going to talk through these statistics, but what I observe is that your climate's better than ours. We share a maritime climate. We're actually much warmer than we should be for how far north we are. So the Gulf Stream makes for mild winters. Not very much snow in Northern Ireland, more in Scotland. Lots of rain. Lots of rain in summer. May is actually the better month for sunshine. Rainfall is increasing, and this is not too harmful looking a picture, but there actually had devastation to a lot of urban communities this year because of the flooding. And I think the word climate change is more helpful to influence people's views than global warming, because if you talk to somebody in Ireland about global warming, they could do with hotter summers and positive. So our own fuel mix is LPG for our heating. We've managed to pull down our heating bill quite substantially by using biomass. And electricity, we're contributing to with some solar panels, PVs. The primary thing that's changed the mix has been the biomass, which we cut ourselves. And that's the mill on the left before we'd started, which was really derelict. And interestingly, people assumed we were going to pull it down. That was what everybody locally examples that people really, make a point of commenting on how nice it is. And so it went down very well. We invested our time, money, effort, love in their locality and had every intention to stay, whereas typically English people would take advantage of some promotion to go to Northern Ireland and then move on. That really matters, I think, to settlement pattern. So we started with doing, at the school I was talking about, we built a straw bale outside the classroom, which was fun, and it was an outlet for all the pining enthusiasm from the parents. I'll just mention that a straw bale building in the wrong place is, or for the wrong people or the wrong timing, doesn't work. You can't just sort out things with technology and assume because it's natural that it will be totally acceptable. Because the teachers never got it with this, and eventually it was attacked by arsonists and the farmer knocked it down. So I primarily want to talk about Hemp Cottage, which we built, and at this point, those who went on the demonstration heard me say, we don't make blogs. Yes, we don't make blogs. What we do is do sample blocks to test the material. So if the rest of you have a look at what we've got there, we've got a cast section of wall, and then there are a few blocks with different mixes. And thanks to Duncan finding Guido yesterday, who's a contractor in your very own country on the brink of actually building houses in hempcrete and had the right materials. Thanks to that wonderful bit of joined up thinking, we had the right materials yesterday. We have several options in Europe of where we get ours from. I'm aware that it's a big deal to import. However, for the sake of showing you, it was great to have materials that have come from France. And Guido's going to explain what he has on offer at the end of my talk, because it was very helpful. So secondly, we've got hemp being grown in your country here. We've got the hemp farm with David Jordan. And he supplied a huge box outside of this hemp shiv, which I'm going to pass around to the first person. So that's the waste crop that's come off the field, and it hasn't been processed into the quality we would expect on a building site. However, yesterday we made a sample out of it, and that's pretty amazingly holding itself together. So I'm going to be a little bit finicky about what hemp I use maybe. This might hold together passing around. It was only made yesterday, and it's light. That's even with all that water content, it's really pretty light. So the hemp farm also supplied me this stuff, which can be passed around, which isn't right, it's a bit tough. But this is the Goldilocks one. This is the one we made it with yesterday, and this is from France. Doesn't have to be. So that's the texture you're looking for. So if somebody passes this around. This one I took out the mold almost immediately, so it's a bit crumbly, so I'll leave that there. And what David Jordan's farm is doing is to make cosmetics and other products and foodstuffs. There's multiple products that come out of the hemp crop, and that's the long fibres. So throw that around as well. And that's David Jordan's card on the back. So we were lucky enough to get planning permission for a plot at the end of our garden by a river, and this was our opportunity to build a house for Tom's dad and to experiment with the hemp and lime. So we just finished writing that other book, and then there's nothing better than experimenting on yourself as an architect. Those drawings aren't clear enough to see. That's the plot. So Starting point was a post and beam frame. Douglas fir you can get locally, it's grown locally. And that's us putting up the framework and lots of other timbers temporarily to prop it. Now they have done structural testing on hemp and shear strength and compressive strength, but at this point that wasn't in the bag, and so we took the route of the hemp not being low bearing, so that's primarily why we built post and beam, and all the roof loads are on that frame. If you see a finished finished wall in hemp, it's amazingly strong and absolutely could take loading. You're convinced it could, but basically what we followed the route that was not the tradition, but the best practice at the time of putting a site constructed timber frame in the centre of the wall. There are different locations of where you can put that. So this lightweight wood here, there's too much of it, there's too much cross-bracing because the joiner was a bit over-enthusiastic. That's sitting in the middle of a 300 wide wall construction. We were using I-joists on the roof. I think other people have used I-joists vertically. It's really quite new to Northern Ireland at this point, this construction. So quite interesting for the builders and for ourselves to reverse the process of build the roof first. Build the roof, but obviously not its coverings, because we wanted to cast the walls right up through the head, and we need to be able to get at that as we finish the roof. So it just had a temporary plastic sheet on the top. And here we go, this is my test block floor on the left, which I brought all the way to New Zealand. The ratio by weight is surprising in that it looks like there's a lot of lime in there, but the difference in weight, the density of the lime binder and the hemp makes you realise volumetrically it's quite a different picture. Yesterday, the first part of the shuttering you can see outside was about that deep. We followed exactly the mix on the manufacturers of the hemp and lime, which we made a little wet, but also we think it's too dense. So from thereafter, we halved effectively the content of the lime binder. Possibly we were swinging away a bit too much, so the fact it's crumbling now is partly because I've raced the process. But do you agree, Guido, that the mix there suggesting is too lime heavy, don't you? Yeah. So for those who saw it happen, it is incredible. We do a dry mix and then add the water, and not too much, and then it's only at the point that it in your hand starts to bind together, which is that hand sort of ball test, that you stop adding water and you're ready to go. And the shuttering can come off really soon after, and you get this lovely face. So the other key decision is whether to spray or pour. When I say pour, it's not a wet soppy mix. It's like pouring biscuit mix, somebody said yesterday. And we decided to do it in situ by hand, by pouring. Had we gone down the other route, we had imported the technology the French are very good at, because they've been doing it for years, of the spray machine and possibly the operator as well, which would have put up those costs. So doing the sort of more DIY, which is high in labour, which if you're doing volunteers is not a problem, as opposed to high in equipment. When I was in Auckland, there was some objection to us using child labour, but obviously it's okay down south. It's very interesting. So that's the mix there sitting in the bucket. When you do the dry ingredients first, the hemp and the lime, it has to be in a horizontal paddle mixer. It doesn't work in a cement mixer. But we came out with another device which has been patented. We got it last night. We put it in one of your big barrels, which have clamped lids, and rolled it up and down. And it was a fantastic result. We opened the lid, just perfect texture. So innovation at the conference. So here we are, we've got of mix, and how far it's dried out will lead to slight colour variations. Basically, the shuttering lift is arm's length, so you can get at all the pockets very well. So it's not a whole wall, and it's not round. This is most similar to the round technology of doing in situ, but it's only light and consistent pressure that you're looking at, knuckle pressure. That's the inside with the windows framed out. And here you can see we cast right to the top of the rafters. That's really different from normal block work to roof junction, where there's this big gap that we're trying to seal the junctions. We think its continuous monolithic nature is really one of the winning things of this material. I've got no films, no stops and starts, no plastics, no spots where you get interstitial condensation. Very consistent. It's rendered on the outside with hydraulic line render, which must be breathable. Paint must be breathable using paint. You can do a clad option, but I mean, we're fairly exposed and we're not needing it. We're not finding we need it. So there's too much on-site framework going on here, so I would put less in another time. So, you know, you can see texture there, and that's the render. That's what's being passed around. No cavities, no plastics. And then we had all these holes in the building from where we'd taken out the shuttering pins, and we had to fill them. We found that the wine cork bottle was a perfect fit, but it was hard work. Drinking that much wine, it was about 200 bottles we had to get through. So just to overview the whole building, we had a brass roof, turf roof on back, and which we did a bit steep. The whole time we looked at so steep. We have one visitor, we have this as a holiday cottage now, and she checked out the building and said as she turned the corner and saw the grass coming out the roof, she was really worried it was derelict. So different associations about turf coming out the roof. Sheep's wool insulation in the roof here, and insulation on top of the rafters. So it's what we call a warm roof construction. We managed to get a second-hand polystyrene for the floors. We were radon area, so we had to have a plastic membrane. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas, so natural should not always be associated with healthy. So that's the completed cottage, and verandas aren't that common in Northern Ireland, but I've seen those in the last 2 weeks, and convinced they're a really good thing for a house, especially a rural house where you want to make a relaxed connection between inside and outside. And inside paints are by a company called Earthborn. It's a clay-based paint. There's a curved wall here on the back corner, just really to try out the sculptural nature, which is perfectly achievable. Is that font too small to read, or you get that? Yeah. So I don't need to convince you in terms of natural is good in this company, but what's interesting about hemp is the combination of it being very good insulant, but having thermal mass as well. So that's pretty untypical of an insulation, a direction of insulation. The line being right through is obviously going to give longer life and act as a biocide to the hemp crop. And the hemp itself treats moisture movement handles it very well, and doesn't sustain mold growth. And that's why they're using hemp bedding for very expensive racehorses, because it doesn't have black molds. So there's something inherent with the fibres themselves, and the fact the line is going right through is really helping all of that. Really good for the air tightness because of it being monolithic, and you're casting, you're not stopping and starting, you're not doing joints. There are properties of sound insulation which some middle of the wall weren't treated with any treatment, apart from the sole plate which was sitting on a plastic PVC. The crop is definitely easily grown. The issue is really processing. And I understand there's somebody who's got a trailer here in New Zealand, who haven't tracked down yet, who's doing a process at the first stage, decortication on the back of the trailer. So that's really encouraging. There's a whole story about looking at carbon and carbon sequestration. I have a warning in my head about that sort of green accounting, creative accounting. I think the point is that this product works so well, you don't actually need to convince people on that line. We know it's crop-based, we know it's a much better starting point than petrochemical. So these are just extracts from the way that we do our energy calculations. It's called the SAP procedure, and they come out with quite misleading figures, but this is the system we're doing, and we have U values. We don't talk about R values, but I understand from looking at this, there is an R value factor in the second from right column. Working back from the U value, that the wall thickness we had, which was 300 thick, had a U value of 5. Does that sound right? Because that's the inverse of 0.2 U value. Right. It isn't right for the Americans because they have a different, they're not metric, so that changes the spell, doesn't it? So, the energy calculation I showed you has to be done for new build construction, and then leads to this labelling that they've brought out through an EU initiative, where they're trying to get people to recognise a good and badly insulated house by the same criteria as a fine fridge, which I think is a bit crude. I think fine houses are much more substantial investment, and my biggest beef with this system is that they don't actually put any information on this, so you know as a consumer what assumptions it's based on. The one on the left is based on a fuel price, which at the moment is varying, so you wouldn't be able to compare like for like if this assessment procedure was done in a different year. 15, okay, so we've got 5 minutes. Yeah, what are you there? Yeah? So, just, we haven't got lots of probes all over it, but we do know it behaved very differently. We had 1 week of -15 a few years back, very differently. Perfect thermal mass, levelling out the differences, not too much thermal mass, which was happening in our own house. And I'll skip this. In terms of thermal imaging, this was really reassuring, only recently done actually, to show that we're not getting cold bridge coming through, that the beams coming through, we're not getting any striking in the wall, very consistent thermal performance. That was the air tightness test. You just have to watch your measures. I'm doing a bit on the science one on this, but the way of quoting an air tightness test in the passive house is not the same way as this. We're measuring 2 different things. So just to relate quickly to, we have to credit the French on this. They are using Hemp for restoration works with its compatibility in filling timber frames, and we've used it for going straight onto stonework internally as well, which is much better than putting in layers and having to ventilate cavities internally. This is just the book that I was mentioning, and the projects, that there are other projects using Hemp throughout the UK. Different, more commercialised approach, standard shuttering, and no child labour buckets instead of JCBs. We've done some experimentation with prefabrication, and we were looking at jointing and casting this off-site and then moving it to a site. Personally, I think to make a really heavy product with changing the problems from on-site resolution to then having to lift very heavy major scale buildings. So this isn't just a cottage industry any longer. It isn't mainstream, but some big buyers have bought into this because of its superior environmental treatment of air quality, including the Adams Brewery, which they saved £250,000 on their air conditioning plant and put the money into the building. So that's findable at Adnams, ADNAMS Brewery website. Lots of workshops, lots of interest, including Canada and Poland. That's the crop, which is incredibly high, about 3 metres it can go to, I think. And this is the start of the processing. This manufacturer of very expensive mattresses in York, England, have their own crop, their own processing, and then are selling the shivers as their byproduct, their scrap product. They're also making hemp into quilts as well, which it's not St. Hempcrete, but it's all part of that same family. The top left is a BMW interior. We're looking for ways of going away from plastics and mouldings, and hemp is one of the avenues on that. Choice between bio versus petrochemical, I don't need to say it to you. But it does seem a bit crazy to solve the drought by cutting out the hose pipe. And there is talk that the sudden excessive amount of this stuff being put in buildings is actually increasing the amount of carbon emissions in the initial 30 period. And so the savings of that, so actually we're getting a spike in the graph of emissions because we're throwing up a whole lot of this stuff down here. I'll not go through that, I'll put that in the science lecture. Product placement, I think is quite interesting. This is Saddam Hussein's hiding hole, which was reported in the Daily Mail. And they quoted a product, a well-known brand of petrochemical insulation. So I'm not sure styrofoam would please that it had been mentioned or not. We have an association with Hemp, with the endless references to cannabis, which I think are not that helpful. So what's ahead? More research, more to be done, better understanding and more influence, and keep writing the books. So I'm going to give 5 minutes to Guido here.
You've got a bit more time in the lounge,
Okay, can I put the video on there?
Sure.
Because there's a video of us making it, and the last half, for those who missed the demonstration, it really makes it clear about the casting process and the texture we're talking about.
The temperature's doing outside, it stays exactly the same inside. So it actually has a very, very good thermal performance. Also extremely good acoustically, it absorbs sound, and so it's very, very good if you want to reduce the noise in buildings. And it also helps to buffer humidity within the building. So it actually absorbs moisture and means that it reduces the risk of mold growth and condensation in a building. So it's what's known as breathable construction. Now that's a very difficult term to define, but Hemp line really does all of those things. So, you know, we're just in one very simple form of construction.
We've actually had to import the hemp from a producer and supplier in England. It is actually the waste crop of a hemp, it's a very valuable crop. So it's not the long fibres, it's the outer case chopped up. But fibres are very beneficial in any reinforcement, have very good properties to bind together in construction. What's on site, we take the big bales of hemp, 2 bales of those, 4 bags of the proprietary lime mix made by Tradical. They are first dry mixed in a pan mixer, which is not the normal cement mixer, much bigger and horizontal. They're mixed dry and then with a controlled amount of water added. And what we end up with is a dry, crumbly mix, similar to apple crumble topping, so it's not sloppy. It's dropped into the chuttering and then tamped. With not too much pressure, because we're trying to keep some air pockets for the insulation benefit. The shuttering can be lifted period to a raised position. So we haven't had to shutter the whole building and floor the whole building. In fact, we have to do it with controlled height so we can reach to do the tamping. The shuttering comes off quite easily. You end up with quite a smooth surface, particularly if you've tamped quite carefully. It still feels soft to touch. You can put your thumb in it and would be prone to damage if people were careless with it, but actually is self-supporting. In fact, it can hold itself within a few hours, and so it's ready to do a lift above. And that would bind very well with the lift above. We're not getting very rigid seams between the two because you're left with no texture. Texture materials bind well to each other. I would agree with the build, it's very labour intensive, but there are other techniques for applying hemp, including a spray technique that the French have devised. That would have been too expensive to import that equipment plus the special workers on that, so we've settled on this casting technique.
The cost issue is a complicated one because all buildings cost different amounts depending on the current tendering climate and how much builders are going to charge. If someone wants to do a hempcrete building, it's likely to cost more because the builder will be unfamiliar with it, so they're likely to price higher. But the hempcrete part of this building is actually one of the cheapest bits of the building. The materials themselves are very affordable, they're not expensive at all. Some of the detailing perhaps makes it a bit more expensive, and we're using high-performance windows. We're putting twice as much insulation in the roof as we need, so those are more expensive. The actual hempcrete walls themselves, it's very affordable, and it's likely to come down in cost as more of the material is produced. So at the moment, we say it's approximately the same as building a concrete block wall with insulation. In the future, it's likely to be less than that.